What is up, YouTube? Today we're building a shifter cart. I've been wanting to build a shifter cart for a very long time, and today we're finally building one. You guys may recognize this go-kart frame from a couple videos back, like a couple months ago. I took this frame, put these giant-ass tires on the back, small tires in the front, put a Predator on here, and me and my friend, we rode it around for a little bit, and we didn't like it. It was kind of scary. The big tires in the back were not perfectly centered, so the back end wobbled really bad if you go on high speed. And we didn't like it, we didn't ride it that much, so I ended up just taking the motor off, using the motor for something else, putting this behind my shed, and it sat there for months. And today, finally pulling it back out, and I'm going to turn it into a shifter cart. Now, how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take the rear end, the 1-inch axle and all that, I'm going to take that off and replace it with this. This is a gearbox off of a riding mower. This is actually a Peerless. Does that say? Yeah, Peerless something. You guys have been saying in the comments how I should use a Peerless, I hope I pronounced that right, Peerless gearbox, and I finally have one. I got this at the scrapyard. I actually got 2 of these. Not identical, but they are Peerless gearboxes. I got 2 of them for 10 bucks, so you can't beat that. So 5 bucks each. Got these things. They work. I took it apart, looked at the gears, no teeth missing or anything, and everything works. So you may recognize these tires from a very long time ago. These were the tires originally on the black and red go-kart back when it had a 3/4 inch shaft. That shaft, or sorry, a 3/4 inch axle. That axle snapped in half. I cut it off, replaced it with a 1-inch axle, and then these have been sitting in my shed ever since. I'm pulling them out because I'm going to be using them for this project. Originally, they had just a 3/4 inch hole in the center with no keyway. I ended up cutting that out and replacing it with this, and I cut a keyway into this tube before I welded it in here, and then capped it with a little piece of metal right there. If you can see that, that's how I did that, and then I ended up just welding it in here. They're not perfectly true. They do wobble a little bit side to side and up and down. Not too bad to where it's gonna really be bad. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's not terrible, but these will work. Originally, I was thinking about just sliding these onto here and then welding it onto the axle, onto the gearbox, but I didn't want to do that because in case these tires popped or the gearbox broke, it'd be a nightmare to take these off. So I ended up doing that, saving me a lot of time. Anyway, that's enough about that. So the motor I'm using is obviously a Predator motor. I mean, what else am I going to use? You know, Predator motors are the only things I ever use, so why else would I use anything else? Anyway, so Predator, I actually got that off of the guy that gave me the dirt bike. So I'm not sure if it runs yet. I'm pretty sure it'll run. If not, I can get it to run. I have plenty of these things to where I can, you know, swap parts out or anything. So I'm 100% sure I can get that thing to run. Now, the only difference that this shifter cart's going to be is I'm using a different clutch system. Normally, people just use belts and pulleys. I'm not going to do that because it's terribly inefficient, and I have an idea for a much more efficient clutch. And that is with using... Why is my camera blurry? There we go. That is using a differential. I've Googled this to see if anybody has ever used a differential for a clutch. I've Googled it, researched it, and I have not seen anything, you know, saying that anybody has ever used something like this for a clutch. I'm not saying that nobody has ever done it. What I'm saying is I haven't found anybody who has ever done this or ever thought about doing this. So, as far as I'm aware, I'm the first one to actually make a go-kart who has a clutch for a differential for a clutch. So how this is going to work is it may be easier just to set the camera on a tripod so I can show you guys. Okay, so I set this up so I can show you guys how this is going to work, how I'm going to use this differential as a clutch. Now I'm going to try and explain this as best I can, but it's really hard to explain how this is going to work, so bear with me. I'm going to try and explain this as best I can and as quickly as I can, because I know my videos are long enough as it is. Anyway, so simple enough, how normally differentials are used is the input from the motor rotates this big sprocket in the middle, and then this rotates the axles, and then that rotates the tires on the axles. Simple enough, that's how a normal differential works. I'm not going to be using it like that. Instead, I'm going to have the input from the motor go onto this half of the differential. When the motor's running, this half is constantly rotating. Now, as you can see, when I rotate this half is not spinning. This right here, which has gears on here, this is not one shaft. These are both separate shafts, and they are combined through gears and planetary system gear set. I don't know how to explain it, but that's how that works. So when I rotate this rotates twice, and this rotates once. So basically the input from this side is dissipated in the middle, and then all I have to do is stop the middle sprocket, and then this sprocket starts rotating. Simple enough, that's how that works, and this is going to be going to the gearbox, like I said. So how I'm going to make this work is I'm going to get a 8-inch brake band, and then take a 1-inch by 1/8 of an inch thick piece of metal, weld it all the way around this, get rid of these teeth, and give the brake band something to grab onto instead of the teeth. And then simple enough, when I hit the clutch, it releases the brake. When I let the clutch go, the brake tightens down on this, making this so this can't rotate, so therefore the energy from this half is transferred through to this half. Hopefully that makes sense. Simple enough. You can see this rotates, and then now it doesn't rotate. This, you know, and really this is a really efficient way to, you know, transfer power, you know, using something like this. The reason I'm not using a pulley and pulleys and belts, and I'm not dissing pulleys and belts, they have their advantages and disadvantages. More disadvantages than advantages, but really I don't like pulleys and belts because they slip, they have a lot of drag, they're really inefficient, and you know, the belts burn out eventually. They have a lot of drag on them. To get them to not slip, you gotta really tighten the belt on the pulleys, therefore it gives a lot of drag, and I don't like them. With this, there's really no energy loss. I mean, all you have to do is stop this, and all the energy is efficiently transferred through to rotate the tires. No energy loss, simple enough, is gonna work. I honestly don't know why nobody's ever used this before. I'm not saying that nobody's ever done this before. I'm saying I haven't found anybody who's ever done this before. So, not saying I'm the first one, I'm just saying that I'm the first one that I've ever seen use a differential as a clutch. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll explain at the end when this thing's running, and I'll show you guys it working in working order. So hopefully you guys get it then. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Hopefully you guys get it. And I'm going to stop rambling. And yeah, so that's how that works. Alright, so first things first, let's get that rear axle off. Alright, so that's basically the idea of where everything is going, and this whole clutch assembly is going to be going right there. Hopefully there's room for that. If there's not, I'm going to just tilt it sideways a little bit so it doesn't hit the tire or anything. But yeah, that's basically the general setup. So first things first, let's figure out a way to attach the gearbox to the rest of the frame, and then I can move on to mounting the motor. Okay, so now that we got the gearbox on and figured out where that's gonna go, let's put the engine where it needs to go. Alright, now that we got the motor put on, let's put on the clutch assembly. It's going to be going right there. Okay, so we got the clutch on and everything looks good. I was able to just fit it in here, in between the tire and the gearbox. I had to turn it sideways, but worked out because I had to turn it sideways anyways to get the chain in there. So yeah, I've been tinkering around with the gearing, and at first I had a big gear, or a big sprocket, whatever you want to call them, on the motor, and that really didn't seem to work. It spun this way too fast to slow it down, so changed it to almost 1-to-1, and it seems to work decent. I took it outside, started it, and kind of just put my foot on there to slow it down, and it did move this thing forward. But it did bog down the engine a lot, just moving this thing forward. But that's like a normal, you know, shifter kart. You gotta hit the gas a little bit to accelerate before you let the clutch out. So hopefully this will work. I'm not sure if it'll work or not, but I'm hoping it will. And you know, I can't really figure out the gearing just yet. I need to first put on the clutch, you know, make the clutch work, and I also got to hook up the throttle, hook up the brakes, and once I get those on there, then I'll be able to figure out the gearing and perfectly tune it to whatever it needs to be. If it needs a bigger sprocket or smaller sprocket on there, whatever. I'll figure that out once I'm able to test it. So yeah, this is the end of part 1. Part 2, of course, will be finishing this, hopefully, and possibly a test drive. So yeah, thank you for watching, subscribe, and have a nice day.